Today on Week in Review, parking issues arise at the Cassian Hospital, why December is the worst month for driving in the Northwest, and a woman from Prince Rupert has been crowned as Miss Queen Teen Canada. Hello and thank you for joining us here on Week in Review, where we cover all the news here in the Northwest. Well, with the Cassian Hospital now open, a new challenge is imminent, and that is proper parking room in the surrounding area.
Well, November 15th was the day that changes were going to be made to the streets of Terrace, where there would be no parking allowed on streets up until April 1st to ensure that snowfall can be maintained by the city. However, a particularly unique situation has arrived, and that is the Cassian Hospital, which is now holding hundreds of employees and visitors as Northern Health makes the transition from the old Mills Memorial Hospital. And the city of Terrace has now issued an exemption for street parking on Tetreault Street and Hogland Ave in the highlighted green sections below, and there will be no parking on sidewalks, parking within 6 meters of an intersection, blocking of crosswalks, and parking in front of fire hydrants. But parking has now become a hurdle for those working and living in the area, with both Tetreault and Hogland filled for most of the common working hours, and some are even looking to rent spaces for the time being. Currently, Northern Health is holding 173 spots, but they are looking to expand to 313 spaces, and CFTK-TV will have more information on this situation next week. From Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
And further details have now been released on a motor vehicle incident that happened not far from Cedar Vale on Wednesday. Police say at 4:37 p.m. on December 4th, the New Hazelton RCMP were notified of a collision on Highway 16. Police attended and located a Chevrolet Traverse and a Western Star tanker that were involved in a collision. And sadly, the driver of the Chevrolet was deceased at the scene, but the driver of the Semi was reportedly uninjured. And the Semi was westbound on the highway when the Chevrolet crossed the center line and struck the Semi. And the investigation is ongoing, and there are no further details at this time. Well, the co-founder of the Tea Creek Farm Training Program in Kitwanga had the chance to testify to the Government Operations Committee as part of hearings on the government's Indigenous procurement practices. Here's CFTK-TV's Jayleen Matthews with the details.
Jacob Beaton was invited by MP Taylor Bachrach to speak during recent Indigenous procurement practices hearings. Beaton's Tea Creek Farm Training Program stems from his vision of healthy, resilient Indigenous economies based around abundant local food.
Our past is our future is how I sum up Tea Creek. That's the vision. And then the nuts and bolts is retraining our people to take those places within our economy from top to bottom.
Beaton emphasized the need for Indigenous-led businesses.
Simple definition of Indigenous-led is that if Indigenous people are making the decisions at every level of an organization, those are going to be Indigenous decisions. They're going to be aligned with Indigenous values and perspectives, and they're going to benefit the community. They're going to create local jobs. They're going to create jobs for other Indigenous people and opportunities to advance. But the Indigenous-led standard is not embraced anywhere in federal government that I've come across.
Bachrach said in a statement that Tea Creek's impact on our region cannot be overstated, and Jacob's insights on Indigenous procurement are extremely relevant to the committee's work. The Tea Creek Farm Training Program was also featured in a documentary film this year. The film is titled Tea Creek and is available to watch for free on CBC Gem. For CFTK TV News in Terrace, I'm Jayleen Matthews.
In a recent news release, a high-speed telecommunications services has been revealed over fiber optics and has now officially become available in the Tahltan Nation's territory. And the release also disclosed that this development was able to come together mainly because of a partnership that was formed between the Tahltan Nation Development Corporation and the City West Cable and Telephone Corporation. And some of the tenants that now have cell service include the Tahltan Central Government, the Iskut Band and Health Offices, as well as the Stikine Regional Health Center. Another thing that was mentioned in the release was that the total construction project wasn't finished just yet, as both Iskut in addition to Dease Lake are set to get some service connection in the near future as well. Up next, why residents of the Northwest should be extra cautious on the road in the month of December. Welcome back. Well, the chief of a central British Columbia First Nation has released a statement saying that a potential unmarked graves have been identified at the site of the former Lejac Indian Residential School after they conducted geophysical survey work for around 2 years. Nedley Wooten First Nation Chief Beverly Ketlow also said that the community always knew that there were children that were buried at the institution because many of their graves are marked in a cemetery at the residential school site. She next said a report from ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry surveys identified several signals that were consistent with other discovered unmarked burials. In the former Lejac Indian Residential School, which is located east of Fraser Lake, was in operation between the years of 1922 and 1976. Well, in the darkest month of the year and with the typical fluctuations in the weather, road safety is a big topic here in the Northwest, where the area has one of the higher crash per population percentages.
After a week full of snow here in the Northwest, the rain has come back in full force, and it looks like it may stay like that for the next while. And this weather is especially relevant due to the driving conditions, where those on the road are considered to be in the danger zone when talking about road conditions due to the weather fluctuating between -5 and +5 degrees.
The northern part of the province, Highway 16, Smithers Terrace, Kitimat, that combination of being fairly close to the ocean, so you're in that real rainy zone, and then as you get farther inland, of course, the temperatures start to drop. So it stands to reason that that driving conditions in that area are going to be hazardous during the month of December and really throughout the entire winter season.
And comparing British Columbia to other provinces, the mountains play a big role in the province's ranging climate. And most other provinces will have long and consistent portions of the year where temperatures and conditions will stay relatively even-keeled, but that's not the case here.
You can go on a trip where you might be in the lower mainland, starting in the lower mainland, and then head out over some mountain passes where you're going to be into completely different conditions. So I think what's unique about BC and what we all have to be prepared for is that variability and really be ready for anything.
And despite making up 4% of the population in British Columbia, 6.3% of the province's crashes happen in the northern portion of the province, according to the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. And according to Acres, that is not a coincidence.
It's the start of winter driving season in many parts of the province. It is also the month in which we have the fewest daylight hours. So it's the darkest month, and that can lead to a number of crashes.
And now with Christmas only 20 days away, the holiday spirit is going to be here for the next couple of weeks, and many gatherings will be taking place here in the Northwest, so safety is of the essence.
Everybody's in a hurry to get to holiday events, to children's holiday activities, to shopping. There's a lot going on at this time of the year, so don't cut corners on road safety. Give yourself lots of time to get where you're going, because I think it's really important at this time of the year to, rather than think about getting somewhere as quickly as you can, getting somewhere safely should really be top of mind.
From CFTK-TV in Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
And in a release that was sent out by School District 54 in the Bulkley Valley, it was revealed that more than a few of the area's bus routes were closed down the entirety of the start of the week. And the main reason that was given for the shutdown of the buses was because of the recent freezing rain that created compact snow as well as slippery sections on the road. And the routes closed down included 1 to 3, 5, 7 to 8, 10, 14, 18, 23, and lastly 25 to 27. Well, a young woman who was raised in Prince Rupert has recently returned bearing a new title, which is called Miss Queen Teen Canada. And CFTK-TV's Jaylee Matthews reports further on what that means.
Alicia Danielson was recently crowned Miss Queen Teen Canada. Contestants in Miss Queen Teen Canada must complete different assignments throughout the competition. This included an introduction video, an interview, an advocacy platform, and a live question and answer.
I developed my platform in 2023, I believe, and I post education on Indigenous houselessness here in Canada. Anything from stats to ways to help. I ran my own donation drives. I put together care kits for those. I work with different outreach teams in Edmonton specifically, and that almost brewed overnight. I had a dream about a name for my platform, and it was Whispers Between the Braids, and I texted my mom at 4 a.m. being like, hey, I think I came up with a name for my platform. And it's just grown since then. It's became a huge platform, and it's a very big part of my life because I get to go do things like this where I get to talk about houselessness and youth empowerment and empowering and why youth empowerment is so important for young Indigenous peoples.
Indigenous to Kihiwin First Nation, Danielson grew up in Prince Rupert. Recently, she returned with her new title to do some outreach in the community.
And I specifically talked about youth empowerment, and I was talking about self-confidence, self-love, Indigenous healing, and things like that. And it really sparked a lot of the students, and some of the students did come up to me, and they were like, I want to get into pageantry. I like what you're doing. I see you. I want to start too. And so I've actually been coaching a few of those girls that did reach out to me in the territories, and it's been like that ever since.
Danielson has been getting involved in advocacy.
For me, I run my own advocacy platform, which is Whispers Between the Braids, and it's based on Indigenous houselessness and shelters within here in Canada, and I want to take that further. So that's why I decided to pursue something with Indigenous policies, so that I can bring those issues up to higher ups.
While in Prince Rupert, Danielson hosted a youth empowerment workshop at the high school she previously attended. For CFTK-TV News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Well, the province has now confirmed the 4th additional case of the chronic wasting disease here in British Columbia, found in the white-tailed deer in the Kootenay region. And chronic wasting disease is an infectious and fatal disease affecting species in the cervid family, including deer, elk, moose, and caribou. And the first 2 cases in BC were confirmed by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency in January 2024, and the third was confirmed in November of 2024. And these cases included a hunter harvested mule deer and 2 white-tailed deer, one of which was killed in a road accident and the other was harvested by a hunter. All 3 were collected near Cranbrook as part of BC's ongoing chronic wasting disease surveillance efforts. And the latest case was confirmed by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency this past Friday. The sample was collected from a white-tailed deer harvested in October of 2024. This case is another in a cluster of 3 cases found in the white-tailed deer near Cranbrook. After the break, the Thornhill Festival of Lights is set to take to the streets. Welcome back. Well, skiers can now get excited for upcoming powder days as Hudson Bay Mountain managed to open early for the season with a bonus weekend ahead of their prescribed opening date.
Hudson Bay Mountain has benefited from the recent dumps of snow with an early opening. The mountain opened for a bonus weekend this past weekend, with 3 of 4 lifts operational and 50% off lift tickets. The mountain struggled with a power outage on Saturday, but was back in action on Sunday. Skiers and snowboarders were warned that it's still early mountain conditions, so watch for trees, twigs, and rocks. They're now closed for the week, with official opening day being Saturday, December 7th. And for James Mountain in Terrace, uphill access is open, and they have a tentative opening weekend listed as December 7th as well. For CFTK News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
And over the weekend, an alert was sent out to notify the residents of northern BC that Highway 37A had been placed under an avalanche advisory for a few days. And the area in question was between Stewart and Mesiatin Junction, and it initially came into effect around at 11 p.m. on Sunday, with the significant amount of snow that covered northern BC last weekend, along with the temperatures steadily going up, and those factors can create conditions that increase the chance of an avalanche actually happening. But even with the advisory being in effect, the highway was still open to all traffic. And the season for Christmas cheer has now officially arrived, and the Thornhill Fire Department is gearing up to take to the streets with one of the season's most anticipated events. And once again, here's Jaylene Matthews.
One thing we can look forward to in the darkest, coldest days of winter are the bright lights of the Thornhill Fire Department's parade.
It's where we decorate all of the apparatus, as seen behind us, with Christmas lights, and we tour the community in the fire protection area, which is very large. So we go all the way east out to past Usk and all the way west to Kitsim-Kalem, and then again south to Lake Else Lake.
The 4-day event starts on December 14th and runs through to the 17th. Between 6 and 9, the trucks will be rolling out along the designated routes.
We do collect food again. We'll collect it in a chase vehicle at the street level. We'll also accept food donations here at the fire hall. Should we miss you at your home, And donations will be available in a form of e-transfers. That'll be announced on our website to provide the proper email address.
Chief Boehm says to make sure you're watching the parade far enough back from the road and in a safe location.
Yeah, the best source of information and live updates will be on the Thornhill Fire Department Community Connection Facebook page.
For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
And BC is said to be providing almost $8 million to 7 different First Nations in remote areas to shift from diesel to renewable energy sources. And newly minted Energy Minister Adrian Dix stated that the projects include a hydroelectric facility at the Gitgit First Nation on BC's north coast, and the El Gacho First Nation in the central interior will meanwhile receive $1 million to support the creation of a 3.8 megawatt solar farm. A number of other Indigenous communities include the Dease River and Heiltsuk First Nation, which will also be getting funds to be used on projects that range from things like hydrogen production to biomass heating. Still to come, hear from Terrace Mayor Sean Buyatash on parking at the Kasiyan Hospital. And welcome back to our last segment. The Kitimat RCMP has once again publicized a report that lists most of the incidents that they responded to or covered, with this edition documenting the later days of November. And one part of the report said that at one point, a bus that was driving on Highway 37 close to Onion Lake really early in the morning ended up colliding with a moose. And luckily, the officers that responded to the incident found that the drivers and passengers didn't suffer any injuries due to the crash, although it wasn't clear if the moose managed to escape serious injury, since it ended up leaving the scene pretty quickly. Well, like we touched on earlier, the Kasiyan Hospital is a hub for many residents here in the Northwest, as it looks to accommodate patients, visitors, and employees. However, getting to the hospital and finding a close spot to park is still a challenge to some out there.
Well, the new Kasiyan Hospital is here and fully in operation, but there lies one bigger problem, and that is the parking surrounding the facility. Cars are lined up, and for Mayor Sean Buyatash says it has been less than ideal.
The parking situation is quite problematic at the new Kasiyan Hospital, but I think, Northern Health is looking for solutions right now, and hopefully they'll find a few solutions. I've connected them with a few people that they can hopefully have some conversations about acquiring, maybe not so much acquiring land, but just borrowing some land to park on for a while. I do think they maybe missed an opportunity here to make sure that there was more parking on their own property, and a bit of an oversight, I think, when it came to they were going to lose all the parking of the old facility.
A temporary solution has been granted for the time being, with Tetreault Street and Hogland Ave now allowing street parking, where the city announced recently that no parking on streets would be available going forward. And the hours that are available for the street parking on these two streets is between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. on a daily measure. And this change comes after a meeting last Monday where the City of Terrace made an official exception for additional parking for Northern Health.
So we've agreed to let them park on the west side of Tetreault, but not the east side, because we have to keep Tetreault clear so people can access the hospital.
And this facility may be one of the biggest facilities in the Northwest, where it holds hundreds of those who were employed, patients, and of course, those who may be visiting. However, this isn't a static situation, and down the line, the plan for the Old Mills Memorial Hospital is for it to be demolished and eventually turned into a large parking space where 313 spots are planned to be available, including 14 accessible parking spaces.
We need that space for parking, and it's showing today why we need to demolish the old mills and create a parking lot there and make sure that there's adequate parking for everybody, because you don't just need parking spots for the healthcare workers. You need parking spots for the people that are patients of the facility and people that are visiting people in that facility.
And for those who are parking around the premises of the hospital, make sure to monitor how long you are parking in your spot for, because bylaw officers have been in the area giving out tickets. From CFTK-TV in Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
As a way to get local residents ready to celebrate their 2024 Winterfest event, the Prince Rupert Special Events Society has organized a variety of different activities that span throughout much of December. And some of the more notable things where people could participate include the Festival of Lights that will be located at the Prince Rupert's Courthouse's lawn on December 7th, a free skate open to everyone at the Jim Ciccone Civic Center on December 8th, as well as a tree decorating competition for young school-aged children at the Rupert Square Mall on December 6th. And the entire Winterfest itself was held over a 2-day span on both December 7th and December 8th. And family physicians are calling on the NDP government to take urgent action on what they're calling an ongoing crisis. As CTV's Rob Buffum reports, they want the Premier to follow through on his election promises.
Family doctors in BC are pushing for a meeting with the new health minister, calling the GP shortage a crisis that can't wait for the legislature to resume in February.
We simply cannot allow one more family doctor's office to close as a result of government inaction. We need the changes to be made now, and we would love to meet with Minister Osborne.
The College of Family Physicians wants the EB government to put into action its campaign promises, noting 40% of family doctors in BC are retiring or scaling back their practice in the next 3 to 5 years.
The time has come to make concrete changes that are going to help reverse that.
Top of the list, reducing paperwork, including EB's pledge to ditch the requirement for sick notes.
Immediately, we would like to see a reduction in the administrative burden. 30% of a family physician's day is spent doing administrative tasks and not seeing patients.
The new health minister says a meeting is coming soon, as is a plan to eliminate sick notes. But there's no date yet for either.
We need their advice, we need their guidance, we need to make sure that we do this right, and eliminating sick notes will increase the amount of time that doctors can spend with people.
BC Conservative health critic Anna Kindy echoes the doctors' concerns, noting the strain the shortage is putting on emergency rooms.
People are coming in with, just to give you an example, they're coming in to get their skin cancer diagnosed in emergency.
The doctors also want meaningful steps to attract new GPs to BC, including the promised streamlining of credentialing for foreign-trained doctors, as well as efforts to retain those already here.
They don't have access to things like extended medical and dental benefits or pensions that much of the workforce takes for granted.
A workforce that's increasingly taken for granted that hundreds of thousands of them don't have their own doctor. Robert Buffum, CTV News, Victoria.
Since the Christmas holidays are pretty much here now, the City of Terrace has gone out of their way to set up a variety of holiday-themed activities that residents can take part in throughout most of the month of December. The activities are also tailored to specific age groups, so seniors can partake in the likes of Holly Jolly Potpourri and Tea Senior Social, an afternoon social event where tea will be served. And adults can go to a Deck the Halls Christmas craft night. Teens have the chance to compete in a gingerbread house decorating contest, and young school-aged kids can go to what was called a Polar Express pajama party. And more details like the dates and times of these events and how to register for them is available in the featured activities section of the City of Terrace's website. Well, that will be all for this week's version of Week in Review. Make sure to tune into our regular newscast this Monday at 4:30, 8:30, and 11 o'clock here on CFTK-TV. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.